Hey, it's Lewis, and in this video we're going to go over very quickly a couple of the updates that I have made to this code base to make hopefully to make this tool a little bit easier, simpler to use, and even have a little more functionality. So let's get right into it. So first things first. Let's go over here to the LOBSTER README file, and we've got right here a couple of helpful tips, extra features, okay? So first things first here, I'm going to talk about the latest change here. You can see at the bottom of our file we've got a change log. So as of the 23rd of August, we have added a filter system. We changed the styles to some elements, and we changed the call function to this right here saying CSV and then the parentheses. So let's go into that first things first here. So I'm on my assets page right here, and you can see I've already entered in the code that populates our page with our new asset filter bar, as well as our elements that show us our asset data. So off camera, what I've already done is taken this code, I copied pasted it into the console, and that's what got us here. So now I'm going to go ahead and use this filter, which is a new functionality in this, and it's pretty awesome. Although it might be a little superfluous because I know that most spreadsheet software has a filter function of some sort. But if you want to do it here locally in your assets page, you can do that too. So check it out. I'll show you how. So if I type CSV right here, CSV and then the parentheses, that calls the function CSV that generates our string. Okay, and so as you can see, it generates us our big long string based on our assets that are showing on the page here. Okay, so I'm not sure why it doesn't have the ability to scroll for me, but you get the idea. It's got the big old long string. So let me show you now what it can do if I filter it. So let's say I'm looking for, well, my XLM. Let's just keep it easy. So I can type lumens, and you can see that the only match that we have is for lumens. If I wanted to find that by the code, I could go ahead and type XLM, and you can see that it finds that, but it also matches to another one that has XLM in the name as well as the code. If I wanted to find all the assets that I have that are stellar commodities, I can type in that, stellar-commodities, and you can see that all the stellar commodities domains show up, and it will also show you how many you've got there. So looks like I've got 246 of these stellar commodities right there. So if I wanted to find out gold, you can see basically how far you can go with this filter. Now let's go one step further. I'll show you how these two tools kind of pair up with each other and provide some power, perhaps. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the console, and I'm going to type in CSV again, and what it's going to do this time is it's going to create a list based on what we've got here, our 31 assets that match gold. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the console back again. I'm going to go ahead and type in CSV parentheses, and now you can see that we've got a string indeed, but you can see it also definitely is showing us our filtered string. So it's basically, again, pulling the data from the page directly and spitting it out into a formatted version that you can plug into your spreadsheet. Pretty awesome. You can also see that a few of these styles have changed. It once looked a little bit differently here. I'll show you right up here in this. It shows you the original formatting and the styling of the elements on the page. That's a little bit different, but it's all basically the same. It's all still there. Last little helpful tip before we get into more detail is a helpful tip that was brought to my attention from one of you users. So shout out to you. You know who you are. But up in here, I've got a helpful tip that basically describes how if you'd like to preserve the spreadsheet formatting that you might have done, you can do that by saving it as an XSLX file instead of saving it as a .csv file. Now what this does is basically changes the file format so that it does indeed preserve this formatting that you do on your file. And from what I know, a .xlx file can be read by most software that makes spreadsheets too. So just a little helpful note in case that is helpful for you. I hope it makes sense. Okay, now I'm going to go over just a little bit of the more complicated stuff, a little more detail. I'm going to show you what I did to change this code base just a little bit. So first things first, at the very bottom, it's calling one function, this util.init. And what this is doing is it's finding the util object right here, and then it's going to go in the object to find our function that's called init. So down here is it. It is a function that is just going to basically call 3 different functions at once, okay? So we've got our run once function that runs on both of our filter system and display totals. Okay? And so what this is doing basically is calling run once and then calling this function. So let's go up here. It shows us what this function is doing. So this function is taking a function as an argument, and it's going to check that function to see if it has this property called hasRun. This is a custom property, so by default, this property will not be there. Okay, so this will return as false. I should say this should return as false, but we are looking to see if this function .hasRun is not there. So that's what this bang operator does. We're asking if the function does not have, with this bang operator, if the function does not have the hasRun property. So if it does not have it, it's going to return this whole statement as true. And so we're going to go into our if statement here. So it's going to set that property right off the bat to true, and then it's going to call the function again with the parentheses there. So all this is doing is showing us that if the function has been called, hasRun property will be set, it will be defined, and that therefore will return false when it checks this here. So it's going to skip over into our else block, and it's just going to log the fact that this function has been called already. Okay, simple there. Hopefully you're following. Other than that, this is basically our filter system function. It does all the work in order to create our search bar here and the matches and all that. So if you want to dig into that, it does everything. So we're writing JavaScript to create our styles. We are adding an event listener onto our input here, our filter input. And this is all the work. This is where all the work happens to filter our stuff. So if you want to look into that and see how that works in more detail, it's all right here. And that is basically it. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have a comment or something to say, definitely leave it in the comments. I make sure to read and respond to as many comments as possible. I hope you have a great one. Until next time, see ya.